Welcome to the glorious CCP Vegas AMA. What could possibly go wrong? If you want to ask questions, I ask you to go all the way to the back, and then CCP Convict is going to help you align to the mic, where CCP Dopamine is going to help you speak into the microphone. The art of speaking into microphones. We're going to try to keep it civil. We're going to try to keep it fun. And yeah, let's go. Hey, should we introduce ourselves? Over there, we have.
Hi, I'm CCP Larrikin. I'm a data scientist.
Yeah, there we go. Hi, CCP Larrikin.
Hi, I'm CCP Hellmar. I'm a CEO.
Hi, CCP Hellmar.
I'm CCP Rise. I'm a game designer.
Hi, CCP Rise. And finally, we have CCP Burger, the creative director.
Hi, CCP Burger.
This isn't a popularity contest.
Or is it?
Third event here. I always appreciate it. Enjoy it a lot. My question is about observatories. We did the blackout thing, and blackout went away, and there was a lot of feedback. And I'm a nullsec liver. I think it should come back in some form. My question is, what's the timeline or horizon for observatories? And I mean, there might not be one, or the tie-in for that to come back in some form.
I mean, I think we talked about this just a bit in the roundtable just before. We're still sorting through results from Blackout and making a plan for what's next. There's a lot of options. We can do like a complete Intel rework. We can integrate Intel into behavior in null. We can use structures for parts of it. They're all really interesting. We have a lot of stuff on the table. That will be part of Team Talos' mission for sure, to find like a next step. We know there was a lot of good things about Blackout. We just need to like find a more targeted design basically for doing stuff with Intel going forward. So can't give you a date, but we're definitely not done with Intel and local and the relationship between those.
Thank you.
But at the same time, like, we have the luxury now that we know how the world looks with local, and we know how the world looks with, nothing. And now we can kind of, we have this kind of grayscale we can play within. So super important.
Hi, I was wondering what you can tell us about your plans regarding faction warfare.
Were you there this morning at all for me to talk when I was talking about it at like the early talk?
No, I was asleep, sorry.
Okay, no problem. I wanted to be asleep too. We have so Team Talos, the new team, faction warfare is super high on the list. We have a set of faction warfare stuff, structure stuff, and wormhole stuff that we're wrangling into releases that'll be coming, sometime in the next couple months. Just to hit the easiest wins, so making changes to mission payouts so that missioners aren't kind of leeching all the LP value off of faction warfare, and a list of some of the most common stuff. I won't go through it all now, but basically we're in a place now to make changes to it. It'll be coming up sometime soon, and then we have some bigger kind of hopes for integrating it more into the NPE. There's so much potential for faction warfare to be a bridge for people into PvP and into social groups. So that's kind of more longer term, but the stuff that's really hurting the experience right now we'll be addressing sometime before long.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi, so I had a question about something you mentioned earlier today, CCP Rise, which was associating loyalty or reputation with certain ships. And so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that, specifically kind of the plans that you might have for that. Like, for instance, you've got the Concord ships that are linked to your security status, giving you an extra bonus. I thought that was really cool. I'd like them to be non-special edition ships that will be around forever, and see more of that.
Yeah, and I'd like them to be pirate ships where negative sex status made them more awesome. Like, why doesn't that exist?
That'd be cool too, yeah.
There's just a whole bunch of room to explore there, basically, and when we've looked at, Navy ships haven't been in a great place for several years, and every time we start looking at redoing them, I feel like we just have a huge opportunity to tie it into some of these other systems so that it feels more like more of a kind of deep investment into favoring a certain faction or a certain style of ship that you like. I don't know. There's a lot we could do. I know Burger's been interested in doing big changes to the standing system in general. There's issues there, so it could be combined with that. Or it could be something like, at risk of giving you more things to hold against me later, things like set bonuses where the more Republic fleet items you use on a Republic fleet ship, the better it gets, or stuff like there's so many options we could have, so I don't know what we'll end up with, but I feel like it would be a missed opportunity not to try and find some deeper thing to do there than just like buff the ships in a normal way, I guess.
Cool, thank you.
Hello, my name's Ren, WR3N, and I have the really, really important question of why is the bridge on the Tempest battleship upside down?
I've been informed by CCP Antiquarian that it is not, and if you have an issue with it, you should go talk to him.
All you have to do is look at the pictures before the graphics redone and after, and you can see the difference.
Yeah, I just want to point out the guy who said it's not upside down comes from Australia.
Well, good one.
Hello. I just want to start off saying that I appreciate all the work you guys do, and you guys obviously make my favorite video game. And my question is, if there's been any discussion internally in CCP about turning back the rule about letting CCP players not play in null sec and in null blocks. Because you guys get a lot of flack, people saying you don't play the game, and I feel like it kind of comes from that place.
Yes, we are reviewing a proposal for an updated policy, and we'll probably make a call next week.
Hello, I'm a proud member of Test here, and I had a question for Rise. If there was one thing you could change about the game, all else considered, if there was one thing you could change, whether it's a ship type, module type, just something that's in the game, what would it be, and why?
But he can.
Just one, Rise, just one. This changes a lot, and it's hard and loaded, but I think right now I would probably turn some big swath of null. I'd either add null regions or switch a section of null regions into no capital sov null, so that there was like a place to see what it looked like when there was no capitals involved in sov space. It's kind of random, but it changes all the time. I don't know, it's a hard question.
Thank you.
Hi, a second test member here following up. Dreadit is recruiting everyone. This is a question. We were just curious with the Talos squad if we could get some look into the thought process behind nerfing assault frigates across the board as a class, when a lot of players are seeing just specifically the JAG, the RAM JAG, as the issue. And I saw there were specific nerfs to that, but why did you do the whole board nerf along with the specific nerfs?
Mainly because I just want to drive the distinction between them and interceptors, like make them more separate. And I think they were very much too fast. When we made the rework like a year and a half ago, they were too slow to be usable. But we increased max velocity by 18% and reduced mass across the board by 10% or something like that. So they they went way faster afterwards. And I think they're plenty good without being quite that fast, which leaves room for interceptors to have more of a distinct role without some gimmick mechanic. So I don't know if that's actually true, but that's the reason at least.
Thank you.
Hi there. So everyone knows that Eve has problems, and so I just wanted to ask, what meta or narrative of Eve Online do you think is really well? And it's something you can think about. You think about it, and it's like, we nailed that, and it was perfect.
My answer for that right now is probably the trig ships in general. They're not perfect right now, but I was worried they wouldn't get used by many people, that they'd be way too strong, way too weak, or not interesting or something, and it's turned out to be have a lot of depth and be like really fresh and fun for a whole bunch of different groups of people, and that seems great. So that's a like easy one for me to go to.
Thank you, Rice. Like personally, I'm having a lot of fun in Abyssal Dead Space. I love it. I think it's fantastic. Of course, we could expand on it, but like I'm super happy playing it, and it's great fun playing it during lunchtime and having Larrikin kind of drop into my office, and I lose maybe a couple of extras because of that, or vagabonds. Thank you, Larrikin.
Anytime, mate.
Yeah, I would bring out the market. We kind of make the market around 2002, and it's still the most impressive market system in any game ever made, and it's frankly even more impressive than most of any financial system of any country, and I've taken a look at few. It still is something we need to kind of take another fling into the vast future, and I'm excited to explore that at some point, and we're doing some of that in Portal. But the market has just held up for almost 2 decades. I think there are a few game systems in EVE that have held up as well.
Thank you.
This is going to be really controversial, and capitals are broken in many ways, but I'm actually pretty proud of how the fighter control system worked out. Like, it has its issues, yes, but I think it is way better than what was there before, and it can be really engaging and fun. Cheers, man.
Good evening, guys. So the community interaction between the dev team, CCP, and us players is really what makes EVE. So what I want to ask is, how many ideas do y'all develop in-house to put in game versus do you get any ideas from the community, say like Reddit or the EVE forum, to actually input into the game?
We get a lot of feedback, and it's absolutely fantastic. Like most of the time, from first idea to implementation, I mean, there's a big long road, and I mean, I don't know, Abyssal Dead Space was a completely different thing the first time we talked about it, right? I mean, there was and Larrikin, and we ended up with something completely different. So events like these are fantastic kind of starting points and seeds to great ideas, and there's a lot of stuff that's in game because of these events. I mean, Alliance bookmarks, great example. Thank you for the vodka and postcards. Fitting warning is another great example of this, and yeah, so definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna add I feel like it's very hard to find things that are in game that came from one source. Like almost anything you look at least since I've been working here, is happened as a combination of lots of ideas being kind of blended together and mixed and reshaped, and players are always a part of that equation. Like there's almost nothing that hasn't been influenced either at the beginning of the process or during feedback stages later on. That so it feels like essential for literally everything I've been part of making.
All right, thank you guys.
It gets really confusing actually. Like you'll be chatting an event like this, and a player will be talking about an idea. And you'll be like, oh, I'm sure I've heard this before in a design discussion previously, or talking to another player, and I don't know where half our ideas come from. Like they're just a big mix.
Yeah, I would actually say what's more interesting rather than ideas about the game is hearing about your problems in the game. Because we're ultimately trying to make solutions to problems that exist in the game. And when you hear about people phrasing their game design ideas without stating the problem of what is going on, and especially if you do it on a forum or Reddit or something like that, you often see there's such an escalation of anger to get the point across that it becomes almost impossible to really know what people are trying to address. But when you meet people in person at an event, there is so much emotional context to the challenges that people are facing, that it's close to impossible to get that sort of feeling across through other systems. I can take an example of something I never really fully understood until I kind of really got it frankly, in Australia, of all places. Like we have these meetings where we go over sort of what's coming in through customer support. And cloaky camping has been at the top of the list for like ever. And we were coming up with ideas for cloaky camping and like many ideas. And I was like, why is this a problem in the first place? And it wasn't really until I stood the agency problem of like somebody can cause so much angst without having any counterplay to it. And it's not until you're met with the angst that you really understand the depth of the emotional context of it. That just doesn't come across when you read about it in a logical way. Because if you look at the logic of it, like, okay, how can it be so terrifying to see a name in a chat list? Well, I mean, I also figured that out when we took the name away. Seemed to be terrifying also. But that is very important for everyone to just hear the full, like, context of your problems and why you are seeing it as an issue. Because often when you come with a solution without explaining your problem, then, I mean, we make solutions. It's our profession. We've been making solutions for 20 years. You can debate whether we're good or bad at it, but without really knowing the problem, it's hard to make a solution without having that full context. And that's extremely valuable to get it here. And what has happened this year, going around the world and hearing how different it is in each place was extremely educational in this World Tour concept.
Hello. I'm Hateless Gaming, and I mostly run missions a lot. My question is, with all the attention to faction warfare and the mission running in that aspect, is there going to be any attention to level 1, 2, and 3s in HiSec or anything like that?
So, we are doing a lot of investment into our internal tools, and the BSD FSD move that I talked about in the keynote is a key part in that. Eve is, I mean, we're 16 turning 17, and throughout kind of the years we've built different types of content with different types of tools, and one of the efforts that we're really kind of trying to push on right now is to start unifying our tools. And by doing that, that will allow us to kind of tie the system more together. And in a kind of ideal world, you know, there shouldn't be that much difference between missions, factional warfare, incursions, invasion, epic arcs. Like in the core, these are all kind of doing the same thing. So kind of from a gameplay point of view, I think it's really interesting to kind of explore the idea what if they would all tie together? What if like level 1, 2, 3 missions are basically kind of part of factional warfare or a part of, you know, incursions or something. So I think, you know, not promising anything, but I think there's a really interesting conversation around how to kind of tie them more together, how to kind of, you know, if Eve is this bubble here, you know, back in the days, like mission running is kind of sitting outside the game. What if we kind of pull it in and make it all matter more in the progression of the universe?
I would really like to see something like that, because new players are thrown directly into missions and they get kind of confused, like, what now? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello. So with Eve Echoes coming out, it kind of reminds me that I want more Eve stuff. So a couple years ago, you guys were doing Eve Ascension, and that kind of went nowhere. And also Nova was going to be moving towards coming out, but then you guys mothballed that. Well, put it back at the drawing board. Are there any updates on either of those two?
No, there are no updates at this point in time, other than we keep trying and come back and refine, iterate, and all that. Making computer games is an extraordinarily hit-or-miss activity. It's not just with us. It's a universal problem. So the fact that we do it so much in the open with all of you is some weird CCP method of doing it. Right. It has pros and cons. So, but right now we have nothing new to say.
Okay, no problem. Thanks.
Hey guys, I just was wondering, since we've heard so much about some of the more overarching general changes to bookmark structures, if we were going to see or have an end in sight for the obvious performance hit that we take when we're doing mass bookmark operation, they're copying and moving lots of bookmarks.
Yeah, go to Singularity and test the new system. That will give the team data to operate on, and I'm sure they can optimize the hell out of it.
Yeah, but you know, we're seeing some really promising numbers. The mass test, we did a mass test on duality 2 or 3 weeks ago, and the numbers were way better than we thought. And we all had like butterflies in our stomach going into the test, but we're quite confident after that test, and that's why we decided to talk about it here, because we believe that we can ship it and it will work.
Awesome, thank you so much.
So during the opening ceremony, there was a avatar mutaplasmid. Will you expand on that?
Hey, Rice, you can leave. Should I let you talk about it?
Yeah, why not? Okay. I mean, I'm not going to say too much about it. The point is not to, the point of having that there is not to say that we are going to make Titan mutaplasmids. It's to show that we're trying a bunch of different wacky stuff. And that was one of the things. And I don't know if we'll actually make it or not, or what it would look like if we did. But it's fun to think about. And part of the reason it's actually there is that CSM went absolutely berserk for it for some reason. They like tried harder than anything. Here you go. He just gets excited hearing about it again. So it was a little bit of a tease at them. But the point is we want to keep chaotic changes coming and think about really crazy stuff. And that's an example of something. Whether or not we actually put it together, we'll see.
And I mean, part of that is also like, rather than debating about things and hypothesizing forever and ever, like, let's try them. If it breaks stuff, then let's fix that or pull it out. And if not, then awesome.
Thank you.
So since you guys were talking about the Minmatar update earlier, are you guys planning on buffing medium autocannons at all?
No comment.
No comment.
All right.
Do you think we should? Huh? Do you think we should?
Yes.
Oh.
Hello, I'm Saul Spider from Moose Army. I'm the Citadel director for my corporation, so I was actually curious about the feasibility of stand-up tractor units for Anthenors.
I mean, in terms of like technical feasibility, I'm sure it's no problem. Right?
Well, there's no one here to counter that.
Yeah. Doing this without programmers is a good idea.
I love not having tug support here.
In terms of like value,
Basically just to be able to fit them in the high slots for like corp operations and what have you, so we can just pull in the cans as they get jet canned.
Sure. I mean, maybe. Like, there's no plan to do that, but I'll like take the idea. I mean, sure.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Hello. So just a question about the training queue. In the for each level of training to train, there's the time that it's going to take you to get through that specific training. I'd like to suggest that maybe we put a where you hover over that time, and it'll tell you the date and time it'll be done in the order that your training queue is. Just a thought.
Do you want to?
Does that make sense?
I mean, that makes tons of sense. Also, that's something that will definitely, I feel like, get picked up on this track of stuff that, like all the usability improvements for new players under the sections he was talking about earlier. And also, we have some really good ideas for just making a much broader update to the training system, so it's way easier to use in general.
Yeah, I've got all my stuff and it's like, when is this going to be done? Rather than having to do it.
No, we agree and want to improve that situation a lot. So I would look for, we'll probably be talking about training changes before too long, I think, to make them just generally a lot more usable.
Perfect, thank you.
Hi. My question is if the Triglavian disintegrator technology might ever be applied to mining, spooling up and having to focus on the bigger rocks to get efficiency and all that.
I doubt it, because that would, jeez. I mean, there'd only be a nice trade-off there if there was like rocks to mine where, Like it works for the gun because sometimes because in general it's so valuable to do damage up front. And so if you can wait, like it's a great reward to get more damage because you're sacrificing something up front. But I don't know how we'd use that in mining because you don't really care. Like you just care about the net over time. And so if it spools up and is better, you use it. And if it doesn't, you use old ones. So it's hard to make like we need I think some kind of new resource that let us have a balance for that. And I don't know how that would work, but I love the idea of a trig mining ship. It sounds funny.
I think there could be a way, but thank you.
We're going to have one question from Twitch chat. It's about EVE Online and EVE Echoes. Are there any plans of having them linked somehow, or are they going to be completely separate games?
They are going to be separate in the beginning, but this is a futuristic sci-fi world, and whether you can communicate across the multiverse might happen at a later date. But there certainly have been a lot of concerns raised here about some of the more notorious character names in EVE Online and how they will be represented in Echoes. And I think that's a really good example where part of the EVE Online IP is really made by you guys, and a lot of that is through the notoriety of some of the characters involved. So this is definitely one of the feedback points from showing it here, which we're going to be finding a way how we incorporate that. But at least in the beginning, the main point of it is it is both a mobile version of the game, but it's also a fresh start of the game where everyone is starting at ground zero.
Hi, I'm Xander Val from Brave Collective, and my question is concerning LP and the new wallet you displayed yesterday. And would you consider with this new wallet, since everything else is a currency and directly tradable between players, making LP directly tradable between players?
Ooh, that's a big question. Not right now, but I do think LP, I think it would be really healthy we need to take a healthy look at LP. I think there's a really interesting conversation about kind of, right now corporations are giving out LP, should we move that up to faction? Should we be able to move, transfer LP at diminishing returns to faction and back down to another corporation? That could be another thing. I think there's a lot of, I like the fact that LP is soulbound, and it's like one currency. You can't get it unless you're doing stuff. You can't just kind of buy your way into the LP store. You you really have to work for it. But I think there's still a lot of opportunities for improvement in there, and to make it more kind of understandable for specifically kind of newer players. I mean, I have LP, tiny amounts of LP lying around that I will never use because it's just something I did 9 years ago, and I'm not gonna use them ever, I guess.
Yeah, I can maybe speak a little bit to the sort of, spiritual context to why we have LPs. LPs are very much modeled after airline points. So you can think about why your airline gives you loyalty points for using their services and how they do that and how they have that as dual currency systems where you get miles and then you can get points. And when we made the LP system originally, airline loyalty point programs were quite primitive. They're rather sophisticated today. So I think part of what we should maybe do is to look at what has happened in the pattern we used as an archetype for it, and then see if there are smart ways to bring those back into the current implementation. But the main point is not to make it another currency, just like airline miles are not just another currency, even though they have a lot of currency-like usage. So you can think about it like that.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Mom Bellicose, Brave Collective. Brave is recruiting. Tell 'em Mom sent you. It was good to see you again. We saw each other in Australia, so I just wanted to follow up and see where we are on earrings, hair with hats, maybe some purses and other accessories.
Well, we've actually been doing a lot of interesting stuff in our character department. We've been playing a lot with like augmentations, facial augmentations. We're playing now with more body augmentations, which is super interesting and super exciting. Hats and hair is actually a really difficult problem, technical problem, and it's a problem gets brought up every now and then, but it's something that we're definitely thinking about.
How about the earrings?
We should have earrings.
Yeah, so I have always had this dream of like, well, I can say it. It's not really my problem to make it work.
Thank you, Hellmar.
Yes,
I love you.
Yeah. So there's something about this concept of tears, which I like. Eve player tears, and there's something about dying and tears, and I have this fascination of like you can see like an emerald tear, and you could make an earring out of an emerald tear.
That would be fantastic.
And then you could make an earring, and then you could make a little pendant, and the pendant takes like 10 tears. And then you could make like a choker out of tears. And then you could make like a full-on sort of queen sort of medallion like out of 1 billion tears. And there's something about that which I've always liked. I don't know why, but...
Can we harvest the tears from corpses?
Harvest tears from corpses, yes.
Fantastic.
Compress corpses into tears.
Yeah.
Thank you. I look forward to that.
So you guys have been talking a lot about like the new player experience, and I know that a lot of it has been is currently focused, and at least for the near term, will be focused on that first 33-hour, 30-hour split. Slightly longer term than that, one of the struggles that I've had over the 12 years was finding a social group that actually fit what I wanted to do, that kind of thing. And do you have any discussions or conversations being had about guiding people into player-run organizations or into more social structures? Because just from my experience, spending 12 years bouncing around between 50, 60 different corps, it's kind of a hard thing to find a group that does what you want, that's actually active, that's actually functional, that kind of thing.
There's been quite a lot of conversation about this. The raw data shows incredibly clearly, and I'm sure we've said this before, that when a new player gets into some sort of social group, be that a fleet or a corporation, they keep playing EVE Online. So we've talked a lot about that. I know there's been some discussions around the corp finder as well, and how that can work. Obviously, there's a lot of like usability problems with that. If you're a corp who's advertising, there's no incentive not to advertise as a corp that does everything, and we're certainly discussing that.
Yeah, I mean we have like a couple of things on the drawing table right now that we're looking at. Everything from like how kind of how to apply to corporations. Sorry, I'm still thinking about those tiers. To also just like letting new players know about player-run corporations. I mean, should we be just emailing players about, hey, you've reached day 7. That's a great time to actually go and check out player-run corporations. And you've been doing a lot of mining. Here are like a couple of mining corporations that you could apply for. Something, I don't know, like I have no idea how to kind of go through all the legals and kind of implementations, but we've been definitely kind of thinking along these lines and how we can make the experience smoother and kind of more tailored to you.
So one thing I want to maybe introduce before answering is this concept of survivor bias, which is something we have to watch out for a lot when it comes to EVE Online. And I think it's important for all EVE players to kind of understand survivor bias, because it's kind of a powerful roadmap to like chart a new course for the game. So the concept of survivor bias was invented in World War II. So the English were sending planes over to Germany to drop bombs. And then they had some planes coming back, and they looked at where the bullet holes were on the planes coming back. And then they put more armor where the bullet holes were. Obviously, it was not a problem to be shot there because the planes made it back. The planes that had the problems were on the ground in Germany, but they never looked at those planes. So they just looked at the planes coming back. So every time we go and talk to EVE players about their journey through EVE Online, that is exactly not the problem. So the fact that a lot of EVE players survive due to the fact they found a corporation is not necessarily what we should fix. It might be it. But we have to fix the problem much earlier because that is where the most filtering occurs. And we have seen, and it was a thesis to begin with, if Bergur goes and fixes the stupid, like I was talking about yesterday, that will have people play more past 5-minute point. But will it have a difference in 7-day retention and 30-day retention? And we have found now, through what we've been doing, is that fixing issues in the launcher, in the early game, in character creator, increases 30-day retention, and it increases 90-day retention. So first we have to fix all this issue over here. Then we have a whole new crop of new players which are now made it into the system of finding a corporation. Those players will have a different need than the current players that did found an organization. And I was cycling with Dirk over on Friday, and we were talking about it. Because I think the way Brave Noobs is run is a bit of a roadmap of how a corporation in game can express their values, express their ethos, express their personality, so that you can have an easier time to match. Do I associate with those values? Am I excited by that ethos? Is that a leader I will follow, etc.? And but I think the time to do that is once we have a better crop of new players in the funnel from all the fixes which are being done now.
Hello, my name is Axe. I'm from Blue Sun Interstellar. So Hellmar, earlier in the AMA, you referred to the economy as being one of your kind of proudest points. And Rise, you spoke earlier in one of your presentations about some work you're going to be doing with, for example, gas and a little bit on the tier side, basically to kind of resurrect items and resources that don't really have a good intrinsic value currently. So one of the overarching themes of eVegas has been your new development cycle, with the Talos project, doing quick iteration. So my question to you, all of you, is do you have any plans to do something similar to Talos with the economy as far as keeping an eye on the economic effects of the other changes that you're making and having corrective procedures in place to account for items that are atrophying or are no longer of value?
Yeah, it's actually a big part of this new rework is to tool ourselves with the ability to take a look at these, like to follow these things more closely, follow them live and see changes. We have the Economic Council in-house, and we're just building up more tools to actually follow these things and react to them as needed. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like people talk about economies in a certain way, and I mean ultimately economy is like a statistical outcome of the inputs that go into it. So every time you have a problem in the economy, it is not really the economy or the market system, etc., which is broken. It is the input system which is broken. And it is fundamentally broken in EVE, and it's fundamentally broken because it's too stagnant. And it doesn't behave like nature behaves in the real world. Like nothing in nature has repetition loops which are consistent, repeating eternally the same thing over and over again. There is a fundamental issue in the current state of EVE Online, and that input stagnation leads to all the other stagnation we're leading to. But how to go and not make that like a sort of a pull the rug from under you and like, oh my God, the floor is lava, well, that's one way of doing it. But another way is to find a better way where there is a relatable poetic reason similar to in nature. Why you have now depleted, why there is scorched earth when you industrially mine, why there is nothing there now, and why there's an escalation in NPC activity, why you no longer get conquered payouts because they're frankly just tired of paying you because you're obviously just doing the same thing over and over again. So this is the reason why the economy is stagnating. It's an input stagnation. It's not actually an outcome stagnation.
Greetings, gentlemen. My main character is Fonsui, proud employee of Signal Cartel, and I'd like to thank you all for making this happen, firstly. What I would like to discuss has been touched upon here and there. I'd like to present a somewhat considered vision of a heterogeneous platform ecosystem, and I would like to know what you think about it. I envision interacting with Eve and New Eden as on different platforms, not necessarily as different games, but rather as access to specific game modes. There are certain game modes that lend themselves to different platforms, and you have gamers that will choose to engage on a console as opposed to mobile, as opposed to desktop, and I think that we may be able to capture a significantly larger audience overall and filter people into their preferred medium if we were able to present the different game modes of EVE Online this way.
Yes, I mean, you're absolutely right, and obviously Arcos is a big step into this arena. I mean, mobile is the biggest platform. Arcos is custom made for that platform. You can see, if you follow the Etherwars story, that Etherwars story is a very different way to play EVE. It is, for example, a way more console-friendly way to play EVE than EVE Online is. And once you have a PC game and a mobile game, console is kind of in between. But it's more important, obviously, to take care of business in EVE Online, and we need to do a better job on that, and get the mobile version out. But there's not a far journey between those two things to make something like a console version. And Etherwars is kind of dabbling in that direction, because we've seen many MMOs have come onto consoles in recent times, and they actually do very good business on console, contrary to what people were projecting would be the case. So you are correct.
Well, there's already a lot of motion in this direction. The new mobile app is obviously, you yourself have mentioned the potential of seeing planetary production added to that. That is one perfect example of a game mode of EVE Online that is directly part of EVE Online and is not a separate game that is presented via a different medium. Obviously, Echoes is intended to be a standalone platform at its outset. I don't know if it will make sense to integrate them eventually, but I think that a goal of merging it into a single universe at some point or another could be beneficial.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Terchi, loosely affiliated. A lot of work has been done to bring Triggs into HiSec. When are we going to see him in wormhole space?
Well, Bergur and I spent 48 hours in a sauna in Finland, and basically the summation was, when is chaos coming to wormhole? We are bored. Sorry, I'm naked. Speaking about emotional context and feedback and all that, as I said earlier, we got the message loud and clear.
I think you can't get it any clearer than naked in a hot tub in Keminusari.
Yes. So obviously, chaos needs to come to wormholes.
Hi, my name is Ace McRae. Praise Bob. I work within the bioinformatics community, and the other day went to a conference and got to see, by the Human Protein Atlas group, Project Discovery, as explained by them. I've been playing this game for 8 years, and that single-handedly was the coolest thing. Like, that brought everything back together. It was awesome. What is your guys' goal going forward with Project Discovery at all? Like, how does...
So we just won a Nobel Prize. Yeah, so I'm extremely proud of Project Discovery. Like it just kind of glues together sci-fi, real science. You know, we're saving the world in a odd, quirky way. You know, with Human Protein Atlas, we saved so many poor PhD students' lives by doing Project Discovery. Protein Atlas, I think it was 163 Swedish working years. Of course, they work just like a couple of hours a day or something. I don't know. Sorry.
A Swedish working year is only a third of a normal one.
Yeah, probably. And now we're doing the exoplanet work with University of Geneva, and we're actually seeing some really promising results. The big problem with what we're facing right now is that orbital periods, we cannot speed up orbital periods. So we have seen some stuff. We talked about it in Toronto. There is a Saturn-scaled planet that has been seen, and there is a Jupiter-scaled thing that has been seen. But the orbital period is long, and now we have space telescopes looking at it. Yeah, we just haven't figured out a way to speed it up. So yeah, I mean, I still, I love this project. I definitely want to push it forward. We've been working with a lot of different partners on it, and people seem to absolutely love it. So it's just pure bliss.
Thank you very much.
And maybe just to add a little bit to it. So, I mean, Bergur is basically the architect of this madness, and it's hugely inspiring. But at some point, we will find a planet, and we should call it Jira. And every time I say this, somebody explains to me, well, Hellmar, the convention of naming planets is... Exactly, we don't care.
We don't care.
We don't care. We have 1 million space nerds that have been playing it online, and we're calling it Jira. Maybe Jira 4.
Hi, I'm Eli. This is my first EVE event. I'm having a great time. Thank you very much. I'm part of the Center for Advanced Studies group that lives in Syndicate for the past 10 years. We're the Starter Corp. My question revolves around the work you're doing with the first 3 hours that new players experience. Is there any planned changes to how the races in the Starter Corps are picked?
Yes, we've actually talked a lot about it. We have talked about a lot of different concepts, and we've talked about a lot of different approaches, ranging from should everyone start in the same system to should you not start as a part of an empire, but you become a part of that empire later. We've talked about, rather than having 3 starting zones in each empire, having a single one. This is a very active conversation. This is happening EVE Online is happening, 21,000 years in the future. I find it quite baffling that Amarians and Galantes are not having babies together. People on Earth are having babies together. It doesn't matter where you're from. There's a lot of interesting things on the drawing table. A little bit too early to talk about, but I think there's some interesting stuff happening.
But I think there's a lot of power in what Bergur is saying about having everyone start in the same system, and we have a system that is kind of perfect, which is ULI. If you just know new players are in ULI, it helps a lot of the new player corporations. All your infrastructure allows us to take care of business in ULI differently, etc. So there is a lot of kind of simplification and focus that comes from just all the new players are in one system. It will also give you guys a better sense, I think, for how many new players are coming in every day. There is 2,000 people that log into EVE for their first time, new humans, every single day. It just goes on and on. Bergur showed you the tiny town of Akureyri in Iceland. Every week, that town joins into a system in EVE Online, and because it's scattered into starting system, 3 different systems in its race, they're kind of just spread all over. But if you were to see it all in ULI and it's just buzzing with noobs, there is a very different way to think of the game, just going there and seeing all the little kids.
Yeah, and actually thinking about it, if 20,000 new players signing up for EVE every week. Akureyri is like a really nice, cute kind of metaphor, and it kind of But you can also think about it in such ways that the biggest alliances in EVE are around that population, and so think about that. Every week we get a whole new alliance signing up. That's, you know, that's crazy. It's crazy.
Can I just ask you a question? If we jammed that many new players just all into CAS, would you just fall apart?
No, not at all. We love it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Hey guys, Max Pye from Muse LLP. Thanks for all the years, a lot of fun. I have a question from Backscratcher from my corp regarding the blackout, but not limited to the blackout. During the blackout, we observed login numbers go way down in our alliance and in our corp, and we also saw that we had bonus skill point events and things like that. And our concern is that perhaps it artificially inflated the numbers or the popularity of the blackout, but it could apply to any changes that may go into the game.
So, Larrikin, do you want to take this? I mean, we actually, Larrikin did an amazing job, analytical job on this whole thing, and we've actually managed to kind of break down the numbers really far. And I mean, thank you, Larrikin. Your job is like you're an amazing human being.
Thanks.
I love you, man. Oh my God, I can't believe you managed to do that.
So we looked at the effect of blackout on different segments of the game, and those segments included people who spend the majority of their time in high security space and low security space and in big alliances and small corporations. And we quite clearly saw the different effects that had on people who are in large corporations and small corporations in nullsec compared to the effect that had on people in highsec. And as you might imagine and probably experienced, the people in highsec logged in less, and the bonus skill point campaigns got a lot of people in highsec logging on more. Sorry, did I say people in highsec logged on less? Sorry, people in nullsec logged on less, and we saw an increase in people in highsec logging on, engaging in the skill point campaign. So your question about did that hide the data? No, not at all. We saw what was happening.
And there may be a few points to that, and it relates to the survivor bias I was talking about earlier. Obviously, we have a certain EVE player base today, which in a way likes the game as it is. So when you make changes to the game as it is, and especially when it's drastic changes, it's not shocking that some people won't like it, people currently playing the game. But there is also a whole host of people which have left the game because they don't like the stagnation and the lack of sense of danger from it that has been before. But of course, the idea with Blackout was not to make it a permanent thing. It was to understand these dynamics better. How many people are curious to come back? How many people are really gonna just never leave a station? How many people are gonna eject altogether? And now we just know that from having run the experience. And it would also bring something in, because I know a lot of people look at the PCU graph, is that during the while we were tackling the botting situation a lot. And bots have a lot of accounts, and they log in for a very long time. So bots have an extremely high impact on PCU. That's why actually we don't use PCU internally, because it doesn't count actual humans. It's not a good metric for that. So we always look at daily active users, and we rate it by actual humans, individual humans. So whether you have 50 accounts, 500 accounts, 5, or just 1 account, you just count as one human. So while the PCU number, when you look at it at EVE Offline, is quite impacted, it's mainly because when you kill a botting farm, you take away 500 accounts that were logging on in 24/7. But we filter all that out because we don't care about that in the context of whether the game is in a healthy state or not. So I've seen a lot of people are sort of being concerned about the PCU numbers, but the PCU numbers were falsely inflated by multi-account botters wreaking havoc in the economy, and they're now mostly gone from all the activity we've been doing on that front.
Okay, well, we all want to get rid of them.
So, Dopamine, we have like 6 minutes left. Dopamine? What's up? We have like 5 minutes so left.
We're gonna finish all of the questions from here. We're fine. We can keep going.
All right.
Hey guys, I'm Kendon. Can we make Rorqual mining interactive some sort of way? Like, I log in, I push F on a rock, and then my friend watches local, and I don't look at my computer. And then eventually I complain that I run out of heavy water, but I didn't do anything. It's like...
So just like I was saying earlier, I'm very proud of the market. It has held up very well. When I look at mining, I'm not very proud of that, and it's not held up very well.
Yeah, it's not good.
Mining, oddly enough, is in the same situation as the market system. It is basically the same code, the actual mining that occurs. Then we have made different ships that do the mining differently, but the actual activity of mining is basically from 2002. Like what happens there within. And when there was a question about Triglavian mining lasers and things like that, it's such an agency-less concept to begin with. I really hope at some point we will sort of rekindle the concept of, like mining asteroids is probably the most aspirational thing in the world. The reason why we'll go to space in an industrial way is to mine asteroids. Like putting up a settlement on Mars is pretty cool, but it's like we're going to be going to the Kuiper belt for ingredients in G6 modems or 6G modems before we know. So, like, it's a damn shame that we haven't made a better job of it. And there is this sort of, I don't know, passive-aggressive situation within CCP of, like, mining isn't cool and, like, blah, 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 and I've never mined and all these things. Fuck no. Mining is damn cool. Like, mining asteroids is the coolest thing in the world.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm with Invictus Mace Window. I'm an FC. Is there any possibility for a reward system for joining fleets and making people more active socially as a group? Like something separate for mining fleets and PvP fleets?
I mean, you know, we've been talking a lot about economic issues and wealth distribution and risk-reward problems. Something that comes up a lot, I mean, we were just talking about it before we started, is more direct ways for you to employ people. There's social benefits and economic benefits if you as an organizer or enabler have a way to compensate and reward people for participating in the stuff you're doing. And that applies to a lot of things. If it's horrible to ref structures and nobody wants to do it, you should be able to employ them with a system that's there for you to use to do it. You could then have people who decide that that's a job they're up for, and we get economic benefits and you get services done for you. The service economy in EVE is kind of weaker than it could be. And I think that's a really interesting area for us to explore. And you know, fleet participation is a perfect example of where that could be applied.
Yeah, like we do that as an alliance and corporations and stuff like that. I know Goons does it, Test does it, but I was just wondering if CCP would look.
Yeah, I mean, we're totally interested in it. Like, I mean, yeah, SRP is such an important version of this, but it's so basic, you know, it's like the simplest version possible of like, we'll just refund stuff. But that could be a much deeper system, you know, if you get paid more if you bring a certain role, or you know, get rewarded for exceptional performance based on how much damage you did, or I don't know, like we could do all kinds of stuff there. It's a huge area to explore, I think.
All right, cool.
Yeah, and
Thanks,
I think there's
guys.
both opportunities in like just, you know, paying you with ISK through a kind of daily mission system or something like that, run by corporations, or even like, you know, give out some sort of like achievements or medals for like, you know, great jobs. So.
Riddick Poison, Null Mix, we live in wormholes. I was wondering if we could get a separation between us and Null with Citadels. Currently the rigs are the same, and or our own flex structures or something that give us a little bit more unique in the Citadel system.
Yeah, I think we should look at that. The more I've been talking about structures this week, this came up in the roundtable a little earlier and some other places, the needs are super different, and because the system isn't flexible enough to shift very well, it puts you in a weird spot, and having some wormhole-only like infrastructure of some kind to address the things you need could be a really cool way to get out of some of the issues like we have with Fax, where we're trying to balance something for two completely different situations and trying to find a place where neither one is miserable, but actually they're just different and should almost have totally different tools. So I want to talk about that more. I don't think we've discussed that a lot. I'm not sure if when Citadel was happening they talked about that. There is obviously some different behaviors in wormholes for Citadels, and maybe that's all that's needed for that to be expanded a bit, but definitely seems like a great direction for us to explore.
Hello. I was wondering if it would be technically or even economically feasible for Corp logos to be treated like Alliance logos, where you can submit a picture and CCP can approve it, even if there was a Plex cost associated with it for your time.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's possible. Currently, the pipeline for Alliance logos is extremely manual, and we would have to do something there. It's a tricky business because we have to look at each one and judge them, and they have to go through a vetting process. So as of right now, I would be extremely scared of opening that floodgate of corporation logos going through that process. But it would be awesome sometimes in the future. Oh my God, you really only have 20 seconds.
So, a couple of years ago, I think it was, a bunch of players got together and did a drifter autopsy. And we learned some little ideas behind what they are. The Triglavians have been around for a while, and their ships are crewed, and there's some of them fighting on the ground, that sort of thing. Naturally, I mean, even Concord had the crew from that first ship. How could we? How would be the best way to sort of go about trying to make something like that happen?
Make what happen again?
Another kind of like an autopsy type thing, like the Drifters had. Just learning more about what the Triglavians are instead of just what they're doing.
EVE Online Invasion Chapter 2. Come out soon. What could happen? The Triglavians are really dangerous. I don't know what they're up to. Soria is I wouldn't want to have dinner with Soria Triglav. I think I wouldn't come out a whole man out of that one. So, I mean, Larrikin, would you?
Can I just say, you guys are all really weird. That you're talking about cutting up Triglavians. We're talking about tier necklaces. And what was oh, Mike.
You're from Australia, aren't you?
Wait, why aren't you upside down? No comment. All right, guys. This has been absolutely fantastic. We have a crazy party tonight. I look forward to seeing all you all out there in your awesome right pants and shoes and shirts and everything that the place asks us to do. There is an awesome selfie booth outside, and the four of us are going to hang out there for some awesome picture moments. So come out, take some pictures, talk some ships, and yeah, have a good one.
Thank you.